like an inch or less, but a high impact on the roads. So that is something to keep in mind this weekend.
Well, whatever falls would stick. There's no doubt about that. It definitely would stick. It also might be, though, if you're thinking about from like a clear the driveway sense, it might be a leaf blower snow.
Yes.
Right? Because it's not
Southern
super
snowblower.
Heavy. That didn't work this weekend. I put in a lot of sweat to get the sleet off of my driveway. I had about 2 inches of sleet there.
Yeah.
And so the leaf blower doesn't work on that. But whatever we get this weekend, it probably would be pretty light in character. You could get a lot of snow. Like the ceiling on this event is pretty high, but it would be light in character, I would say.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It might be fun for some people. If you're able to cash in, you might be able to do some sledding or some snowmen for a change.
Yeah, and what is the deal with the weekends? I mean, this is like the third weekend in a row with at least the chance of wintry weather. I kind of joked, is this going to be the new March 1960 where every weekend we talk about something? Instead of Wednesday, it's on the weekend.
At least that time, I would prefer Wednesday. I think Wednesday sounds terrific. And I only need, when it's a Wednesday storm, I only got to talk about it on Monday and Tuesday. It's just like get to the final answer. But boy, oh boy, we get to talk about it for 6 days and then work the whole weekend and then come back. So we love what we do, but it is a lot of talking.
Yeah, and that's true. And, the weekend, I do think from an impact standpoint, it is beneficial. That's obviously no school on Saturday. There's been not much school this week, but a lot less people work on the weekends. There are people that work like us, and there's a lot of other people, but it tends to have a little bit less of an impact because just there's not as many people on the roads that we normally have Monday through Friday. So there's always that kind of added benefit on the weekend. But a lot of people have plans. I mean, people postpone plans from last weekend to this weekend, and now it's like, am I going to have to postpone again? So I think Tim, we were kind of a mutual agreement. This is certainly something that could be something to keep an eye on. And the good news with this, I actually enjoyed probably forecasting this more if it wasn't for this past weekend, is this is a pure snowstorm. This is a classic Carolina snow setup. It's not the crazy stuff we were dealing with last weekend.
Been a while since we had a Miller A. They're hard to get. The coastal tracks are hard to get, and they can be more fun. So we'll see. They're trying to race in Winston on Sunday night. We'll see what happens with that as well.
Yeah, we should also say on the coast, this could have a lot of wind, so think almost near blizzard conditions if this thing cranks up. Of course, we've got a couple more days to talk about it. We'll do that tomorrow, but stick around. We've got more news coming up on The Plus.
Thanks for joining us inside the Impact Studio. I am Colin Mayfield. For the next 2 hours, we're going to start with the president who spoke in Iowa not too long ago, focused on the affordability, especially during what we're seeing, the fallout from Minneapolis. So amid all of that, he's speaking on a number of things. We'll go to this right now.
Our farmers, we won this thing. I think. And you put a new fighter in. I said, that's not fair, but that's what happened to me. The stuff that happened to me can only happen to me. But I repealed the Biden's EPA ridiculous water restrictions to keep federal bureaucrats off your land and out of your business. That was a big one. That was a big one. I terminated the so-called diesel exhaust fluid requirement. You know what that is? Saving family farmers more than $1 billion a year, and we're going to do a lot more. We're going to do something on tractors. You know, they never took we did it with cars. We took all that nonsense off the cars. You couldn't start your car. You'd have to go to MIT to get somebody to fix your car with all the crap they had on it in order to save a quarter of a glass of this much little tiny bit of gas. These people are crazy. And I'm going to do that, I think, for tractors, too, because we're going to get the tractors back where you don't have to be a PhD in order to start your tractor, in order to keep the environment clean. So much nonsense. I think it makes the environment dirty, actually. And very importantly, on day one, I kept my promise to the people of Iowa and abolished the insane electric vehicle mandate, which would have obligated you to go out and buy an electric car, but it would have obliterated a thing called ethanol. Do you like ethanol? Is it big? A lot of people are asking me about ethanol. I don't know. Do you want me to do something with ethanol? Maybe. After years of the United States getting ripped off by other countries on trade, I'm standing up for the workers and the farmers of our country like no other president has ever done. No other president has done this. I mean, no other president has done this. I could have had an ACC presidency. I'd probably have this little piece of ear back, you know? Could have it, and I wouldn't have to listen to lunatics like this up there. I wouldn't have to listen, and then I was... Thank you. Boy, they're good here. Do we love our law enforcement? They work very quickly. But under Sleepy Joe, we had the largest trade deficit in world history. But in 1 year, I've slashed our gaping trade deficit by a staggering 77%. How about that? What about that? That's pretty good, right? 77. Nobody's ever seen that. You know, if you slash your trade deficit by 1%, you're like a genius. They say, oh, he's very electable. He's not so electable. I did 77. I did something else, favored nations on drugs. We now are paying the lowest price anywhere in the world for drugs. In other words, we're matching favored nations. It's called most favored nations. Every other president tried for it. They didn't try very hard. They didn't get anything. I got it done. I got all the nations to agree. You think that was easy? I said, if you don't agree, we're going to put tariffs on you. They said, we agree. We agree. So you'll have a pill that costs $10, as an example, costs $10 in London, costs $130 in Des Moines, and now it's going to cost $20. Think of it. You'll go from $130 down to it's the biggest price reduction of prescription drugs in history. And would have a huge impact on your health care, too. I was very proud of it. And you know, the fake news, I can't get them to talk about it. Think of it. I got the biggest price reduction in history on drugs, pharmaceuticals. I can't get these guys to talk about it. It was page like 22 in the New York Times, a little story. It just got the biggest, I can't believe it. If a Democrat got a half a point down, this is like hundreds of, depending on the way you want to calculate it, you could say it's an 80% reduction, or you could say it's 1,000% reduction. You could say whatever you want, but it's the biggest reduction in history by many, many times. I did something because we were subsidizing the entire world. We were paying 10 times, in many cases, more money than the rest of the world. And I said it wasn't fair. And I got it done. And everyone said you can. They said, you'll never get other countries to agree. They said, yeah. I said, yes, I will. They said, you'll never get the other countries to agree. I got the drug companies. That was not easy, I want to tell you, but that was not so bad. But they even told me, we'll agree to it, but you'll never get the other countries. I said, 100% I will. Why wouldn't I get them? And I called Macron of France. I said, you got to double the price of your drugs. He said, no, I will not do that. What was the story with his glasses the other day? What the hell was that all about? But anyway, but I got them all. I don't want to go into a long story. Bottom line, I said, I'm going to increase tariffs by 25. I'm going to charge you 25% tariff if you don't do it. They said, we will do it. We would be, why don't you ask? We'd love to do it. So I got something done that no other president could have gotten done, and no other president. I don't even think they tried, you want to know the truth. You think Biden was thinking about it? He just was thinking about how the hell to get off the stage. Remember, the guy could never find that. You have so many ways. You can jump off the front if it really gets. You got stairs all over the place. The guy could never find his way off the stage. This was not a good sign. But I've made new fair trade deals with countries covering half of all U.S. trade. You do know they're paid agitators, right? They're paid. They get paid. You know, do you ever see their signs? You know, we used to have protests, and you'd have guys making a sign in a basement. These are all paid agitators. That's all they are. They get paid to go, and they don't even know what, when they interview them, why are you here? I don't know. They have no idea. They're paid insurrectionists, really, in some cases. They're sickos. But I've made new fair trade deals with countries covering half of all U.S. trade, scoring giant wins for the farmers, ranchers, and agricultural producers like no other president has ever done. That's why I got such a tremendous vote from the farmers, and I love you too. I do love you too. So Japan will now allow the United States to supply up to 100% of automotive ethanol, and import large amounts of aviation biofuels from the United States. That's great for you. That was part of the deal that we made. The United Kingdom will import nearly $1 billion of ethanol. That's part of their deal. Australia is allowing American beef into its market for the first time in more than 20 years. Did you know that? And beef is doing great, and we got to get the prices down a little bit, and they're starting to come down pretty much. China has agreed to purchase over $40 billion of U.S.-grown soybeans. You know that. You're selling them. They're selling them. And I went to President Xi, and he's upping it. I mean, it's $40 billion. The European Union will dramatically increase purchases of American pork, dairy, and soybean oil. They never did that before. They're all doing things that they never did before because you have a certain president that's a little bit different from the presidents that you had before. And nations from Cambodia to Thailand to the Philippines and Indonesia are eliminating all trade barriers to agricultural products. Your agricultural products had trade barriers that didn't allow them to be sold in countries that are now saying, oh, please, we'd love to accept your product. So that's great. It's going to be, you're going to see it starting to kick in now for the farmers. And to further help our farmers recover from the really a catastrophe of the Biden years, what a period of years that we had. We had a country that was just dead. We had a country that was just not respected by anybody. We had a guy who didn't know where the hell he was. Do you think he worried about his farmer at night? No. He just wanted to go to sleep. This is what we had. This is what we had in our fake election. We recently issued $12 billion in farm relief. We gave them far because you were screwed by other countries. I said, how much is the number? To our great Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins. She's doing a great job. I said, Brooke, what's the number? And she said $12 billion, and I wrote a check for $12 billion because we have so much money from the tariffs coming in. So you couldn't have done that before. We're a rich country now. I hope we win that Supreme Court case. You know, we have people that are China-oriented. They have people from literally that very China-oriented and foreign country-oriented trying to stop that, but we'll get it done one way or the other. We're going to do it. If we have to do it a different way, we'll do it. But we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. We're doing amazing. Nobody can even believe it. Foreign countries cannot believe what's happened. They're studying us, but it won't work. But I'm also working hard to expand your markets domestically. And in the campaign, I promise to support E15 all year round. Yes? Yes? Should I do it, Kaufman? Should I do it? I did. I promised E15 all year round if I get elected. And I want to let you know, and we'll start right now. I was going to put out a statement a week ago. I said, hold it. I'm coming to Iowa to make a speech. I'm not going to put out a truth. I'm not going to put... I want to be there in person to tell them, the people of Iowa, to know that I am trusting Speaker Mike Johnson, who's great, and Leader John Thune, who's great. That's House and Senate. To find a deal that works, we've got it. For farmers, consumers, and refiners, including small and mid-sized refiners. In other words, to get E15 approved, and they're working on it. They're very close to getting it done. So I just wanted to let you know that. Yeah? Okay? And China will be sending me a bill very shortly supporting year-round E15 to my desk very quickly, and I will sign it without delay. Okay? I hope you remember us for the midterms. You know, the worst thing about the midterms is the fact that no matter what happens, the people that win the presidency, you win even if you're a good president. I think we had the best first year of any president ever, maybe they say. But even if you're having a great, it's like in the last 50 years, they've won it twice. Can you believe it? If something happens, there's a screw turns with the voters. So even if it's a Democrat or Republican, whoever wins the presidency has a hard time with the midterm. If we lose the midterms, you'll lose so many of the things that we're talking about, so many of the assets that we're talking about, so many of the tax cuts that we're talking about. And it would lead to very bad things. We got to win the midterms. I mean, I'm here because I love Iowa, but I'm here because we're starting the campaign to win the midterms. We got to win the midterms. That means Senate, and it means House. Got to win them. It's crazy. You know, you'd think it would be like a 50-50 deal or something. It's like, for some reason, and this is Democrat too. Democrat wins the presidency. For some reason, they lose the midterms. Now, maybe they don't campaign as hard because they've campaigned. I don't know, but I campaign hard. We got to win the midterms. So remember that you got to get out and you got to vote. The midterms are very important. We're gonna really work hard on winning the midterms. We have great candidates. Again, Senate and House. We have great candidates. We got to win them. And we have candidates that rule with common sense, not this craziness. You know, we're not going to be supporting transgender for all, men and women's sports, open borders, open borders. The worst is open borders because, you know, I take care of things, and, you know, inflation I had to beat very quickly and all, but this open border thing, you know, it's a lot of work. You're taking criminals that they allowed into our country where the jails are opened up. Remember, the jails, the prisons all over, from all over the world, they're opened up. The Congo, all over South America, Venezuela, they opened up their jails. We got to get them out. I mean, it's really, really, we can never forget what that group of morons did to this country. We can never forget. And we've got to win the midterms. That's why we've got to win the midterms.
All right, everyone, we're going to take a quick 2-minute break. Of course, we'll come back to the president speaking in Iowa right after this. All right, guys, we are awaiting Representative Ilhan Omar to speak on the Minnesota involvement of ICE and everything that's going on in their streets. So once we get that and she is speaking, we'll go to it live. But for now, we're going to go to the president speaking in Iowa right now.
Pouring into our country from overseas, we're also making America affordable again, a problem caused totally by the crooked Joe Biden administration. I mean, you know, I inherited this problem. They say, prices are too high. I just took over. They said, I'll never forget, I come here, I'm in 3 days, I have a news conference 3 days into my administration. What about the price of eggs? They've gone up like 5 times more. I said, I just got here, I didn't know about it, I'm sorry. And we got eggs down very quickly, remember? But I was standing there, I'm so happy, I just won. I thought the press was going to be so nice. And some lunatic, right there actually. What about the price of eggs? Eggs have gone up. I said, oh, tell me, give me a little, because I don't know. I just got here, I'm sorry. But I fixed it. Now I fixed it pretty much all, but it's going to go down even further. No, but they caused the problem. And then they came up, you know, it's a word that they came up with, affordability. Every time you hear the word, remember, they're the ones that caused the problem. And first time you heard about it was like a few months ago. This election's all about affordability. Well, they're the ones that caused the problem. But nobody knows that. You know, people forget. So they say, oh, affordability, let's vote for the Democrats. It's no, affordability. They caused a tremendous price increases. It was caused by the worst inflation we've ever had. And they come up with this word, affordability. And I saw it even, although you're not hearing it so much anymore. You know why? Because the prices are coming down so much. They don't want it to be an election based on lower prices. But we're bringing down the lower, I like that term better. It's the lower prices. We're bringing them down. But we inherited the highest prices in the history of our country. And we've rapidly brought them down. And that's what we want to do. Did you ever see them where they're being interviewed? This will be an election on affordability. And I say that, but they never talk about it after, that's all they say. They just say affordability, but they never do anything, Mr. Chairman, right? They never say, they don't talk about what do they mean. So everyone says, you know, look, you people are doing a lot of things. You're not into politics that much, although you like it, you like Trump, but you're not into politics. But you're not going to go back and examine. All you know is, oh, therefore, I guess that means they did a good job. They almost destroyed our country. They were pricing you out. When gasoline's at $4.50 and now it's at $1, I was told, you know, I was saying $1.99 today in Iowa. I was told that it was $1.85 it hit a gallon in Iowa. And you know, that's like a massive tax cut. That's actually like a massive tax cut. So the Biden nightmare cost a typical American family $34,000 in 4 years, but after 1 year of Trump, real wages are already up more than $2,000. Think of it, that's a $5,000 swing, much faster. Wages have gone up much faster, think of this, than inflation. With him, it was just the opposite. Wages in the United States in the last year have gone up. And remember, the first part of the year, actually you could say almost the first year, I was fixing the country from the horror show that we inherited. Grocery prices, airfares, hotels, car payments, and rent prices have all come down, and they've come down very fast. And thanks to our tax cuts, millions of Americans will soon receive record-setting tax refunds, an average of more than $1,000. Think of that. $1,000 compared to last year. $1,000 just in what you're going to save with some of the tax cuts. And that number goes up exponentially over the course of 4 years. So it's amazing. It's called the Great Big Beautiful Bill. You know, one other thing that you get that's I thought was so great. I came up with it. You know, very rich people get deductions. Middle-income people don't get deductions. They never had. I said, why is it that when a rich person buys something, they get a deduction on interest, but when somebody that's working like hell, they don't get it if they want to buy a car? And I said, why can't somebody buying a car in America, only if it's made in America, if it's made in some other country, we have no interest. So I got it approved in the Great Big Beautiful Bill. You get a full tax deduction against your income tax. You get a full tax deduction. Think of it, if you purchase a car in America, if you borrow money, the interest that you're paying on that borrowed money is a full deduction for your tax purposes. And that's a tremendous deal. And you know what? It's also great for the car companies, because the car companies are going to be making a lot more cars that they couldn't believe it. And I got it passed. So just remember me as you take those deductions, please. The king of deductions. No, but it was always unfair the way a lot of people got treated. You take that deduction. One of those who will be seeing a big benefit thanks to our tax cuts is Erica Perltel. Where's Erica? Is she here? Erica? Where is Erica?
Right here. Right over here.
Where is she? Oh, she's so beautiful. I'm not allowed to say that anymore. If I say a woman is beautiful, that's the end of your political career, you know? But she is beautiful. How are you? Congratulations. What a good story. She's the general manager at Whiskey River Bar in Ankeny, Iowa, which, as you know, I visited strongly a couple of times in the campaign. And Erica's been able to hire many new employees, and they're each going to be taking home thousands and thousands of dollars extra because of the no tax on tips. And she's got a lot more people wanting to work for her, too, because of that no tax on tips. That's just one of many. How's that working out, Erica? Good? You want to come up and say a few words? Come on up, Erica. You want to come on up? And while she's coming up, also with us is Judy Waldron from Davenport. Judy works part-time as a bartender, and her husband, Chris, is an electrician who works hours on overtime each week. Their family is going to save thousands of dollars on no tax on overtime and no tax on tips, which they'll use to prepare for retirement. And I want to thank you, Judy. Where's Judy? Come here. Where's Judy? Come on up, Judy. Get up here. Come on up. They're totally unprepared for this, but what the hell, right? Say a few words. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, President Trump. No tax on tips is huge for everyone in the service industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I would just like to say the same thing. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, honey. Good luck. Thank you, Bill. I refuse to say they're beautiful. I refuse. But they're beautiful. Do all people look like that in Iowa? I don't think so. Thank you both. Congratulations, too. Great. That's great. We're not supposed to come up, but I looked at both of them and I said, get up here. We're also pleased to be joined by Governor Kim Reynolds. Kim, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Great. A man who's become a real star, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Scott. He's become a star. He's done a real job. He knows his business. And he's a big cutter. He cuts a lot of things. Small Business Administrator, another real star, Kelly Loeffler. Kelly. Thank you, Kelly. Thanks, Kelly. Great person. Those are great people. Also with us are Representatives Ashley Hinson. These are people running for office. We have to vote them. Randy Feenstra, Marionette Miller-Meeks, and Zach Nunn. I want to thank you. Thank you. And I want to tell you that they're all great and they're all running and they should be in good shape, but you got to get out and vote. Got to get out and vote. Iowa Attorney General Brenna Bird. Where's Brenna? Hi, Brenna. Boy, she was early to endorse me. She was so early. We appreciate it. We'll never forget that. That was great. Thanks a lot, Brenna. And you're doing well. I hear you're doing great, right? Thank you. She's running again. You got to vote for her. State House Majority Leader Bobby Kaufman. Bobby. Guys, you gotta move her there. Thank you, Bobby. Great job. Great family. Former State Senate President Leader. Now, I have to tell you about this guy. He endorsed me, the first person in the entire United States of America. It was a year before I even knew I was running, he endorsed me. He endorsed me because he thought I would be good. I wasn't even thinking about running. He was so early. He was the first person in the United States, before my wife, before my kids. State Senate President. He's a Marlboro man. He looks like the Brad Zahn. Where's Brad? Where are you, Brad? Come on up here. Get up here, Brad. And State Representatives Heather Hora, Derek Wolf, Brooke Bowden, and many other wonderful members of the Iowa State House. I want to thank you all for being here. Brad, you got to say, look at this guy. Can you talk, Brad?
Well, it's an honor to be here. And you know, my wife is a Fox News junkie, and she loves Laura Ingraham. And I tell her, I said, enjoy every second, because you are the GOAT. Promises made, promises kept. Thank you.
He's the Marlboro man, right? He could do that, do whatever he wants. He was so early. I said, who the hell is that guy in Iowa that keeps endorsing me? Thank you, Brad. We won't forget. The Trump administration has done more in 12 months than most administrations achieve in 4 years or 8 years, and we've done a lot. I've recently introduced my plan to repair the damage of the Unaffordable Care Act, the worst disaster, which now costs many families more than a mortgage. If you look, a number came out, it's a bigger cost than a mortgage, and it's bad health care. Obamacare was created to make insurance companies rich with government subsidies. I want all that money that gets paid to the insurance companies to get paid directly to the people. That's all I want. So that you can buy better health care at a lower cost. The problem is the Democrats don't want to do that because they are owned by the insurance companies. So they say, oh, we don't want to do that. I want the money to be paid to the people to go out and buy their own health care. You'll buy much better health care. You have a lot of money left over. And I'm also making it a lot easier to buy a thing called a house, the American dream. Last week, I signed an executive order to ban Wall Street and large institutional investors from buying up all.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick 2-minute break. Again, we're still monitoring the situation, waiting for Representative Omar to speak at this press conference in Minnesota. But we're going to take a quick 2-minute break as we wait for this. We'll see you soon. All right, welcome back, guys. We're still waiting for Representative Ilhan Omar to speak. Looks like she's getting ready to do so. We'll take that once she stands up and goes live. But for now, we're going to go back to President Trump.
Because we don't want America to become a nation of renters, and that's what they forced happen. I mean, you have these companies, they own 5,000 houses, 20,000. One has hundreds of thousands of houses. We don't want that. We want people to be able to buy houses. At the same time, I want to keep the value of the house very high of those people who already own a house. We're not forgetting about them because they don't necessarily match those two things. You know, we get the prices down. Well, what does that do? Very important to me, more important to me, is, you know, people have become rich by owning their home. We're going to keep them nice and rich. Is that okay? You know, nobody, I'll bet you've never heard that before, right? But people own a home, and for the first time, their home interest, we're not going to bring that price down. I want to say, let them be rich. But we're strengthening Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac that you've heard about, and in the last 12 months, those institutions have supported over 22,000 Iowa families in purchasing or refinancing and saved over 3,000 Iowa families from losing their homes. We've come out and really helped a lot of people keep your home. And despite a bad Fed chairman, a guy that has no, we call him too late. He's too late. Jerome Too Late Powell, he's too late. He wasn't too late before the Democrats on the election, then he was too early. But he wants to keep rates as high as possible.
All right, guys, we do have Representative Ilhan Omar speaking right now on the ICE activity. Let's go to this live right now.
To turn it over to your representative, Representative Esther Abajek.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you again, Congresswoman Omar. We really appreciate the invitation and all the work that you're doing for us in Washington. Particularly, you are one of the strongest voices standing up against the lawlessness of this federal government, so thank you. My name is Esther Agbaje. I represent House District 59B in the Minnesota House of Representatives, which is where you are right now, so welcome. Again, as Senator Champion and the Commissioner said, I do just want to say thank you to all those who are out there on the front lines, putting your body on the line for our constitutional rights. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And then for those of you who are doing the mutual aid, the fundraising, the dropping kids off at school, picking them up, helping your neighbors get to and from doctor's appointments, all of that is seen and necessary, and we thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I was asked to talk today mostly about kind of things that we're working on in this time period. So in Minnesota, the legislature isn't in yet. We go back in about 2.5 weeks, but we have still been working really hard with our executive partners in the governor's office to make sure that we are trying to protect people in Minnesota. So we're engaged with them all the time. Some of the things that we're talking about that we either want to bring forward as legislation or that we want to see if we can get done before the legislature opens again is really focused on ensuring that we're protecting the rights of Minnesotans, which is why our Attorney General has filed multiple lawsuits against this federal government to show that they cannot do this overreach that they're doing, that they cannot trample on our First Amendment rights and our Fourth Amendment rights and our Second Amendment rights. And he's been doing a wonderful job in that space, and I know that there's been some back and forth with which temporary restraining order is going up now, where's the appeal, where's that, but we know that that office is on top of it to make sure that we will win in the end. We also know that we're pushing on the governor's office as well to figure out a way to ensure that people can stay housed during this time. One of the fallouts from a lot of this ICE operation is that people are not going to work. People's businesses are either shortening their hours or they're closing. And that makes it really hard to make money to be able to pay rent, pay utilities. A lot of that is getting covered kind of one-on-one through mutual aid, but we know that we need to have a larger network to kind of meet that need. So there's a lot of discussion about whether that takes the form of an eviction moratorium, whether that takes the form of extending our eviction notice. Right now we have a 14-day eviction notice in the state of Minnesota. We want to make that a 30-day notice. And also looking at other tools to try to ramp up where we can, pushing rental assistance out more. So those are the types of conversations that we've been having. And of course, we're also having conversations to make sure that ISIS stays out of our hospitals and out of our schools, because those are places where we know that they should not be, and they should not be terrorizing our community there. As we move forward into the session, as much as we're going to work on bills to strengthen Minnesota's laws to push back against ICE, from, as you heard from Senator Champion, making sure that federal agents do not wear masks, making sure that federal agents can be held accountable through a private action to sue. We're also looking at ways to make sure that they don't use chemical irritants in our streets, particularly here on the north side. On the north side, I think 2 Wednesdays ago, we had an ICE operation here that threw a lot of tear gas into our neighborhoods. This is also one of the neighborhoods that has the highest rates of asthma in children in the state of Minnesota. That is detrimental to our health, right? So this is more than just pushing back on ICE, but making sure that we stay and live in a healthy community. And similarly, we're also looking to make sure that there's more investigative authority in our county systems, rather than trying to centralize everything, particularly if we want to be sure that we can get that evidence that we need to prosecute ICE agents. So those are some of the things that we hope to see. Outside of the ICE space, we're working to continue to strengthen many of the laws that we passed in the past couple of years. So things from making sure the African American Family Preservation Act still stands, making sure, yes. That helps keep families together. Making sure that the tenants' rights laws that we've passed still stay and are still followed by our court system. And then ensuring that workers' rights are protected. We started a nursing home workforce standards board. We want to try to expand that and also solidify that. So those are some of the things you'll see on. And then 2 things that are really important to me. Making sure that housing actually, particularly single-family homes, stays for people and not corporations. Yeah. So we want to ensure that large investors don't have the ability to just buy up single-family home properties. Again, we've seen it in parts of the suburbs, also on the north side. We want to make sure that those homes are available and at a good price for people to be able to buy their first home if that's what they want, or build a family in a home. And then finally, we're looking at ways to strengthen our civil rights laws in Minnesota, because we know the federal government continues to erode all of our civil rights at all levels. We want to ensure that in Minnesota, at least your civil rights will be protected here. So those are some of the things you can expect to see in this legislative session, along with many more issues that we're tackling all the time. So thank you for your time, thank you for the invitation, and look forward to the rest of the conversation this evening.
Thank you, Representative Abaje. And we will wrap up with the City Council members for North Minneapolis, Latricia Vita and Pearl Warren. Woo!
Good evening, everyone. I thought Councilmember Warren and I were going to come up together. How cool would that be? She just started a month ago, so she probably needs some help. Thank you all so much. Happy to be here. Someone didn't turn the heat down like I requested. It is extremely hot for a 50-year-old woman that's going through some things right now in life. Right. So thank you so much for having me here, Congresswoman. Thank you to elected colleagues for being here. I think we've all spent a lot of time together in this last month trying to come up with the most resources we've been able to. I was asked to talk about whatever I wanted to talk about, so take your coats off. There's a lot going on in 2 minutes. No. So first thing is, I'm sure you all have seen the news. I was in conversations with the mayor yesterday. He had a conversation with the president, and it looks like we're going to get some relief in some of the agents being taken out of Minneapolis. I don't know what that number is. The mayor could not give me a count of what that number was, but he feels good. I felt like we were having a really good conversation and a confident one about some of the agents leaving the state. And so I am going to check in with him. I know that he had a meeting today with the border czar. I was busy with Ward 4 issues. I saw a few Ward 4 residents in here taking care of Ward 4 residents. We're handling things. So I don't know where we are yet, but I will check in, and I'm pretty sure the mayor and all of us will be reporting those things on our social media or whatever channels we have. Lastly, I don't know how many people are Northsiders here. I want to leave with. Okay, there's a lot of us. If you're from the north side, Miss Anita, I hear you. If you're from the north side, we've been dealing with a dumping issue over here. And so one of the things that I wanted to report back that we're working on is Councilmember Warren and I are working on how we help our businesses who get, what we've seen over the years is a lot of first-tier suburbs who don't have the same type of trash removal that we have in Minneapolis, typically dump their stuff in North Minneapolis. And we don't like it. We're not a dumping ground for trash in the city of Minneapolis. And so it is something that just came, so the night that Representative Abaje talked about that they were setting off the smoke bombs and stuff in North Minneapolis, the incident we had with the man being shot by ICE, the next morning I woke up, and when I got back to Lindale Avenue, the streets were filled with trash. And the reason why the streets were filled with trash is because the field adjacent to that had been a dumping ground, and so agitators went and dumped all the trash, destroyed. This is a neighborhood. This is where people live. People had already experienced so much trauma the night before. I was lucky that Public Works got out there early and cleaned it up, but it's a serious issue in North Minneapolis, and Councilmember Warren and I are already working on policies to protect us from dumping. It's a huge cost that's associated with that for businesses, especially businesses that already question if they should open up in North Minneapolis. So we're working hard to figure out policy and procedure for relief for the dumping, not only from residents but also businesses. One morning I got a call, someone said, "Councilmember, I can't get out of my alley. There are 300 tires in my alley." And I said, what kind of strange prank call is this about 300 tires? So me and my team, Wyatt and Maggie, they're somewhere in the room, they're here. We went to go see 300 tires. at the end of an alley. Believe it or not, it's not the only time we've seen this dumping. 40 mattresses we got a call one day from an area that we had just all cleaned up by the city of Minneapolis. 10 minutes later, 40 mattresses. So I know we got bigger things happening in the world, but we do, as North Minneapolis residents, want our neighborhood safe and clean and welcoming. And so Councilmember Warren and I are working very hard to make sure we get rid of the dumping in North Minneapolis. Thank you.
How you beautiful people doing? Make some noise for yourselves. Thank you to my partnered elected officials. It warms my heart to be here as a newly elected official and be in the presence of community. As your new representative and council member for Ward 5, I am taking this time to focus primarily on constituent services. That is a lot of what I heard from a lot of the residents. So as Councilmember Vita plainly stated to you, the servitude within the community is my primary priority right at this time. Establishing, building, and restoring those relationships and faith within your representative for the 5th Ward here. I know we have a few of our Ward 5 residents here, North Minneapolis residents, but servitude is very important to me. I know our hearts are heavy with a lot of the things that are happening within the community, but that's a major part of public safety, is having someone that you can talk to and that will pick up the phone when you call, that's going to answer those calls and bring you a sense of security and assurance around things that affect your day-to-day needs, and I'm here for it. So I want to thank you all so much for coming out today. My senior policy aide, Rachel Hudson, is here. I do have cards if you want to reach out, but call, and I will answer, and do the best that I can to serve you during these difficult times. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.
In the 5th, we oftentimes talk about how important it is for us to co-govern together, and I am really delighted for the showing from local electeds who represent the constituents that we get to represent on a federal level. I want to start by recognizing the fact that on January 24th, ICE agents murdered another member of our community. Alex Jeremy Preddy was an ICU nurse at the Minneapolis VA. He was an avid outdoorsman, a U.S. citizen. He was an incredibly compassionate person who cared for others countlessly. This is what he appeared to be doing just before being murdered, protecting another observer that was being attacked by ICE agents. Alex's murder by federal agents was not accidental or isolated. We witnessed this during the murder of Renee Good by federal agents. ICE's reckless and lawless actions have taken a mother from 3 children, a partner from a wife, and inflicted unfathomable pain on our community. Similar to Alex and Renee, they were exercising their First Amendment right, an act that this administration has deemed a capital offense. Renee Good should be alive. Alex Preddy should still be alive. Please, let's take a moment of silence for Alex and Renee. Thank you. My deepest condolences go out to Alex and Renee's family, friends, and everyone who knew and loved them. We will not stop fighting until we achieve real justice and accountability. The level of violence, federal overreach, lawlessness carried out in the name of immigration enforcement is unprecedented. U.S. citizens are being assaulted and detained. Minnesotans are expected to carry their citizenship papers. People are dying in ICE custody. This administration has reduced any semblance of due process, sending people out of state to prevent them from having legal representation. Doors are being broken down without judicial warrants. Chemical irritants, pepper balls, flashbangs are being used without a second thought. DHS is thriving in secrecy, obscuring the conditions my constituents are being held in. This is not the America we know. This is not the America we love. Every Minnesotan has a right to feel safe and welcomed. Earlier this month, I co-led a hearing with Representative Chaya Paul on Trump's deadly assault on Minnesota. We welcomed 27 members of Congress to hear from witnesses on what has been happening on the ground and raise the alarm. Trump and his paramilitary immigration enforcement will not get away with their unlawful attacks on our state. The Constitution is on our side, and we will fight every single day to defend it. As it's been said, real justice and accountability starts with full, transparent investigation and legal action against ICE, followed by the abolishment of the agency. ICE cannot be reformed, it cannot be rehabilitated. We must abolish ICE for good. And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face. I don't know.
He's sprayed so many
We will continue. These fucking assholes are not going to get away with it.
Seems like we got some type of a security situation inside this town hall. Let's listen in. This is live, folks, in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
It's about your safety. No, he sprays police. You need to go get checked. Yeah, and it smells terrible.
We're going to keep talking. I beg you. Here's the reality that people like this ugly man don't understand. We are Minnesota strong, and we will stay and in the face of whatever they might throw at us. Everybody settle down. I'm going to finish my remarks. It is important for me to continue to lead my Democratic colleagues in demanding her resignation. And if she does resign, we are going to
Make us against each other. Make a hole. Make a hole.
Be working together to preserve democracy. When we say we are going to put our lives on the line for what is our right, we mean that. Last week, my Republican colleagues put forth a Homeland Security funding bill that includes $28 billion for ICE and Border Patrol. I refuse to greenlit funding for a rogue agency that ICE escalates violence, operates above the law, and opposes our most basic freedoms. Yes. I've already stated tonight, ICE is shooting people in broad daylight, beating up teenagers, spraying tear gas on peaceful protesters, ripping people out of their cars and homes without warrant, racially profiling people based on their accent, taking kids from schools and abducting people, shipping them far away detention camps with brutal conditions and no due process. We cannot treat this as business as usual. That's why I led the entire Congressional Progressive Caucus in opposing this bill. And we as a caucus adopted an official position, and now we have gotten all of the Democratic senators to agree to that position and hold ICE accountable. But this president's lawlessness does not stop with ICE and border enforcement. We are seeing how he's threatening Greenland and Venezuela and Iran and Cuba and Colombia. He has already taken lives in the Caribbean, and we wanted to pass a war powers resolution to hold him accountable. We are hoping for our Republican colleagues to grow a backbone and come on the right side of history. The last DC update I will mention before I take questions from you is that the House took up legislation from Minnesota member Representative Stauber that would open up hundreds of thousands of acres in our beautiful boundary waters to mining development. The boundary waters is the most visited wilderness in the U.S. It features peaceful, remote areas, one of the world's largest dark sky sanctuaries, and it is home to unique ecosystems, including several endangered species. And my beautiful children go hiking there and canoeing, and so it is personal to me to preserve it, not just as Minnesotan, but as a mom. Many of my colleagues here, especially Councilwoman Warren, mentioned the fact that constituent work is the backbone of what we do as your representatives. And it is no different because we are your liaison for the federal government. Our staff can please raise their hand if they're in the room. These people work for you. We can be a crucial line of advocacy for our constituents who are experiencing issues with the federal government, like irregularities, delays, and emergencies. Although it is a difficult environment we are working in right now, our duty remains the same. My district office phone line is monitored from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily. Congressional casework involving ICE is unique and narrow, but we can help with locating an individual detained by ICE if they are not appearing in a detainee-located system within 48 hours. Inquiring on urgent medical issues to ensure an individual is receiving appropriate medical treatment. Ensuring an individual's attorney or loved ones are able to communicate with them. And importantly, our office cannot provide legal advice or assistance. If you are unsure whether we can help with a specific issue, please contact my office at 612-333-1272. I'll repeat that again, 612-333-1272. And we will review whatever detail you want us to review. So far, we have worked on 800 cases with issues like Social Security, immigration, taxes, healthcare, and more. Our team has returned more than $4.8 million to our constituents, businesses, and organizations in the district. Like I said, we might not be able to solve every problem, but we will definitely make sure we do everything that we can to try. Lastly, I want to congratulate a winner of something fun that we do in Congress, which is last year's Congressional App Challenge in the 5th. The app challenge is intended to engage students in grades 6 through 12 to create innovative apps that address real-life issues in our community. I am pleased to announce that my office selected, it's a hard name, okay. People say I have a hard name, but oh my goodness, okay. Vet Bastodkar and his app, Brett Head, as the winner of the 2025 competition. Vet's app is youth-centered personal finance app built to challenge the culture of instant gratification through reflection and accountability. Vet is a sophomore at the Blake School in Minneapolis. He is fascinated by math, economics, participates in Model United Nations, and is a captain of his fencing team. Please help me in congratulating Vet.
Yeah, my name is Ved Bastodkar, Vedbastkar.
You made it sound a lot easier.
I say it every day, right?
Thank you. Thank you. Is it his? No. All right, with that, we'll take questions.
First of all, thank you for staying after that incident.
I learned at a young age you don't give in to threats. You look them in the face and you stand strong. They pick the wrong person every day. Where's your mic? Right here.
I do not know the level of Congress. Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah,
I do not know the level of power Congress has over ICE, but is there anything you as representative could make efforts to try and lead to the arrest of Jonathan Ross and the multiple ICE officers that killed Alex earlier this week?
They were CBP, not ICE.
Yeah, I mean, the law enforcement with the Department of Homeland Security, obviously there are investigations, even if the federal government has chosen not to fully comply in having a transparent investigation. I know Keith Ellison's office, our Attorney General. I know that our district attorney, Mary Moriarty, others have already started the investigations. And you know, as Keith reminds us every single day, murder is not something that has a statute of limitation. And so regardless of what these people think, we're going to make sure that they are held accountable in every way that we can.
Hi. There's so many ways to help. And one of the things I was thinking of is we have our own MPD that is stretched so thin. Is there anything that we can do to help them? I mean, could we bring in snacks to the office? You know, just anything that might help them feel better or appreciated. And along those lines, we also have the National Guard now coming in, and so we could apply that to them as well. You know, showing up with coffee, or is there something we can do?
You know, I will say one thing that ICE has succeeded in doing is make Minneapolis residents love Minneapolis police. I say that with the utmost respect. You know, that's the only thing that they've succeeded in doing. No, I mean, it's been beautiful to really see our National Guard passing out donuts and coffee to people at Whipple. You know, any way in which you can show your gratitude. I think, you know, what has been the most important piece for all of us is, one, to remain united. Two, not to just feel grateful for those you know who are out there, but to feel grateful for everyone who is out there, because Minnesotans are showing up for one another in ways that people didn't expect, and we are showing the country and the world what real solidarity looks like. And we should be goddamn proud of ourselves. So yes, whether you are showing up to say thank you to protesters and people who are documenting, or saying thank you to those that are keeping the peace, whether it is the sheriff's office or MPD, I would encourage it.
So you can just bring in like a couple pizzas or something?
I would assume that would be fine.
I would say check.
Well, yes, obviously you wanna make sure they're not scared that you're trying to poison them. Yeah, that's true.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, we've seen now multiple cities be invaded by ICE, and it seems as though they've left, right? LA, Portland. Do we have any sort of understanding of is there a quota that they have to meet or a certain time? How can we grasp when they could potentially leave, when their whatever objective has been fulfilled?
So what we do know now is that there is some agreement, we don't have the full details, that Border Patrol will leave. It is my understanding, you mentioned being overwhelmed, there's 5,000 of federal law enforcement that has besieged not just our city but our state. And so it is my understanding that those that are tasked to control the border, exercising the 100-mile rule for Minneapolis, at least will leave. And the timeline was today, so they might have already gone. I saw reporting about 800 of them have already left. And so we'll be tracking that to see how many more of them leave. Generally, the way ICE used to operate is that there's two kinds, and you've seen our corrections department clarify this. You've seen Hennepin County talk about it. Generally, there are two paths. One is that someone has been adjudicated, they were arrested for a crime. If their crime is a felony, and they were not a U.S. citizen, oftentimes they would finish their sentence because they committed the crime against us, and we want them held accountable. And then once their sentence ends, the corrections would call and say, we have someone being released at this time, on this day, in the next week or month. And they basically turn them over in the parking lot. Now, that person obviously has the right to ask for a judge to prolong the time they're here, to contest their removal. Sometimes you hear these stories of people who've been green card holders for 30 years. They came here as a baby sometimes. And so those removals take a long time, but they are in ICE detention as they're going through those. We also used to have before, maybe 6-7 months ago, law that said you couldn't indefinitely detain people if they did not have an actual crime that they were being detained for. And we know that immigration in itself, a violation of immigration is not a crime in itself. So the other way, which is kind of what they're saying they're doing now, which is not the way it's supposed to be done, normally the way it gets done is that you have an order of removal for someone, and you try to find out where that person might be. You do surveillance, you talk to known people to them, you find their previous employment, you find a way, and then they do those raids early in the morning, 6 a.m., where people are not really out, trying to find the person in that home or in that business that they thought they might be in. And so we do know that the way that this is being carried out, you've seen the incidents in where they're literally jumping out of a car or breaking a car window or trying to get into somebody's space. that is not enforcement. That is terrorizing. That is terrible. And those are not the kind of tactics we are known to have in our cities. Those are the kind of tactics we're known to have cities outside of the United States where people are brutalized. And so that's why we've been so opposed.
All right, guys, we've got some movement from that camera. Don't want to make you sick at home if you are watching and listening on this. Some interesting revelations and developments as we were watching live with you. Looked like somebody was spraying or trying to get towards Ilhan Omar at some point. And as you saw, two men took that man out of a room and up the stairs, no matter what he did. So I'm sure we'll be able to get more information on that. Let's take a 2-minute break, come back after this. We'll reset ourselves. May send you back to this live press conference in Minnesota, or maybe we'll go back to President Trump. We'll have an answer in 2 minutes. See you then. All right, looks like the camera left from that live event with Representative Ilhan Omar. So we are going to go back to President Trump as he spoke at an event in Iowa not too long ago.
You weren't allowed to use the words law and order. Life matters. I like that guy. You weren't allowed to use the term law and order. You weren't allowed to use the term Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody, right? Remember that 2016? I ran on, we're going to bring back Christmas. We did. Now they're afraid to suggest it, but we brought that back. But law and order, we need law and order. And we have the lowest crime rate now in the history of our country. That's good, but we'll do even better. And as everyone is aware, we've totally and completely closed the southern border with little fanfare, but tremendous success. Where the southern border is closed, nobody's coming in. That's right. Nobody is able to come into our country except for those that come in legally. We want to have people come in legally. We need people to come in legally, but they have to show that they can love our country, not hate our country. They have to show that they're not going to blow up our shopping centers, blow up our farms, kill people. They're coming in legally, but they cannot come in unless they come in legally into our country, and we're letting some great people come in. They have to show that they can love our country. They have to be proud. Not like Ilhan Omar. Did you see that wise guy? You know, she's always talking about the Constitution provides me with the following. You know, the Constitution, she comes from a country that's a disaster. It's considered, I think, the worst. It's not even a country, okay? It barely has a government. I don't think it does. They're good at one thing, pirates. But they don't do that anymore. You know why? Because they get the same treatment from us as the drug dealers get. Boom, boom, boom. I don't care what ship they're attacking. When they attack, when we see them going in, ping, that's the end of them. It's amazing. You know, I don't know if you know, drugs coming in by water is down 97%. And we're trying to find out who the other 3% is, because we consider them the bravest people in the world. Who the hell are the 3%? But it's down 97%, and now we're taking them down on the land. The land is much easier than the sea. You had to do the sea first, but the sea is done. We haven't exactly helped the luxury fishing business, I would say. Would you like to go fishing? No, thank you. I'd rather. Let's go deep sea fishing today. Let's go on a little boat deep sea fishing. Sorry about that. But it's down 97%. We've done a job. I'll tell you, we've made our country respected again. The greatest military. We have the greatest military in the world. You know, I rebuilt our military in our first term. And we have the greatest military in the world. So you read much about Minnesota, where, unbeknownst to the public, we have brought down crime substantially in Minnesota. We've taken out thousands of hard criminals, hardened, vicious, horrible criminals. You don't read about things like Washington, D.C., where there is virtually no crime, and it was horrible a year and a half ago. Memphis, Tennessee, which was a real disaster, and now it's down. Crime has dropped by 78% in the last 2 months. New Orleans, Louisiana, I was asked by the governor of Louisiana to help them with New Orleans. It was a disaster, and crime is down 54% in about 3 weeks. You don't read about that. And we've done all of this by taking thousands of criminals out of these states. We took over 2,000 people out of Washington, D.C. These were criminals. You know, if you remember, about 2% of the population, it's a very simple business. 2% of the population causes 90% of the crime. So when you start decimating that 2%, boom, that's why we have the, it's an amazing number when you think. It's just crime over and over and over. 2% creates 90% of the crime. Isn't that amazing? It's not that complicated, is it? In 1 year, we've achieved the largest drop in the murder rate in the history of our country. Drug overdose deaths are down by 21%, the largest drop ever recorded. We got to do better than that. And I've designated the drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. Big deal. And despite the strong efforts of the fake news media, we are starting to see the historic success reflected in tremendous polls. We have great polls. In last week's Rasmussen poll, we're leading among Hispanic voters. We're leading by a lot. Nobody's ever seen a Republican lead among Hispanic voters. You know, Hispanic voters don't want crime. People don't realize that. Hispanic voters want strong borders, because they know what's coming in and they don't want them. They're great. They've been great. We did so great in the election with Hispanic voters. We did so great with black men. We did so great with white everything. In yesterday's RMG poll, a clear majority of Americans support our deportation policies by a margin of 10%. Now, I don't know why 10%, because I don't think it's even, I mean, Wouldn't you say like 100%? Who the hell would be against? Maybe somebody that hates our country. In a recent Harvard-Harris poll found that 80% of Americans support our unprecedented operation to deport criminal aliens. In other words, 80%, that's more like it, of the people support our operation to remove really dangerous, bad people out of our country. And in a Reuters poll that just came out, Republicans are leading on the economy by a lot and leading on immigration by a lot, and the crime, they're leading by a real lot, by almost, I guess, almost 20 points. And in real clear politics average net approval, the Republican Party is more than 10 points more popular than Democrats. And I don't even understand that. How can 10 points is considered a lot? But to me, I mean, how is it 10 points when we've done all these things? They've done only destroying our country. They are destroying, they would destroy. I'm telling you, if Kamala won, or any of them, I think Gavin Newsom is worse because, I mean, he's destroyed California. If they won, if they win, that group, that ideology wins, you will be Venezuela on steroids. And I've said it for years. And you know what? They will destroy our country. The country would have been destroyed already. We're fully rebuilding the U.S. military with more than $1 trillion we're spending on the military. And in June, we obliterated Iran's nuclear capacity in Operation Midnight Hammer. You saw that. People have been waiting for 22 years to do that, and we were right at the end. They were about a month away from having a nuclear weapon. We had to do it. And by the way, there's another beautiful armada floating beautifully toward Iran right now. So we'll see. I hope they make a deal. I hope they make a deal. They should have made a deal the first time they'd have a country. And just weeks ago, at a spectacular operation in Venezuela, we brought the outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to face American justice. In one of the most brilliant, lethal, quick, they've never seen violent operations ever seen, military operations ever seen. Nobody was killed, not on their side. A lot of people, unfortunately, I have to say a lot. We went into a very big, powerful military base with a group of unbelievable, talented, patriotic people that love our country. You couldn't hold them back. You know, the weather was off for 3 nights. It was not good, so I delayed it. The next night it was okay, but not great. I said, General, sir, they're ready to go. Sir, they're okay. I said, but the weather's a little bad. They said, sir, they're ready to go. I said, God bless you, General. And boy, did they do a job. Joe Biden and his allies, in conclusion, in Congress did everything they could to destroy our country, but they failed. And today, after just 1 year since my second inauguration, you know, we have a new hat. It's called America is Back. America is back. Our border is secure. Our spirit is restored. Inflation is stopped. Incomes are up. Prices are down. Our economy is roaring. Our workers are thriving. And our country is winning again, winning like never before. We've never had a period of time like this. You've never had a period of time. I just left a great group of people from Iowa, and half of them were crying as they talked to me. I don't think they were crying because I'm doing a bad job. You know, in theory, you'd cry if you do a bad. They were crying because I've done a good job. Sir, they said, sir, you've brought our country back. Crying. One woman was fantastic. She grabbed me and she put her head right there, and her tears are pouring all over my beautiful suit. I figured I'd get it. And I checked it out, and there was a lot of makeup all over. I said, what the hell am I going to do? I got to get myself in trouble. No, but she was crying, and I said, don't cry. Be happy. Be happy. With the help of the incredible people of Iowa, we're repairing 4 long years of disaster and decline, and we're beginning what will be known as the greatest years in the history of our country. I believe that, too. We are entering a period that will be called the golden age of America. That's what's happening. So together with all of you, and you were with me from the beginning, all 3 times we won by a lot. I don't know if you remember, but before I got involved, this was really a Democrat state. You know that. I don't want to bring it up. And then I came along, and it wasn't Democrat very long, and our great chairman did such a good job. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, you could do anything. I've offered him, come to Washington, take any position. But he likes it. He just doesn't want to leave. I think you just want to stay in Iowa. I don't blame you. But you are fantastic. But we've won all 3 times by a lot. But this used to, until we came along, this used to be a Democrat state, and then we turned it. Barack Hussein Obama, have you heard of him? He won both times, didn't he win both? He won twice, you know. Barack Hussein Obama, wonderful president, really brought people together, didn't he? But Barack Obama won twice, you know, and so everyone said, well, Iowa, you know, they had this down as not winnable, and we won in a landslide. 3 times we won in a landslide. So. Together with all of you, the citizens from all across this incredible, beautiful land, we will make America powerful again. Oh, we've done it. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. That's happening. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And most importantly, we will make America great again. Thank you, Iowa. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick 2-minute break. Of course, we'll see you back for the next 30 minutes here on WCNC Plus. See you in 2. All right, folks, sorry for that wait. We've been trying to get ourselves together. Had to start one of our pieces of technology over again. Got to love it when it does that. But we do want to get to New York City Mayor Mamdani, who's speaking about the state of the city after this just winter storm that we saw in our area. They got a ton of snow. Let's go to this now.
Before we begin, I wanted to first give an update on the life-threatening cold that this city has been enduring for days. Yesterday, I shared that the city has placed 170 homeless New Yorkers off the streets and into transitional housing like shelters, safe havens, and stabilized beds. I can also share today that since January 19th, the city has made nearly 500 of those placements. But at least 10 New Yorkers have tragically lost their lives after being found outdoors. We don't yet know whether every case will be ruled hypothermia, but we need every New Yorker to be on alert, looking out for their neighbors. The city remains in code blue, which means that we are intensifying outreach, that we are conducting round-the-clock checks, and have loosened traditional shelter intake procedures to accommodate as many New Yorkers as possible. 311 calls are being rerouted to 911, so help gets there faster. And we are immensely grateful for the 911 operators who serve as the connective tissue of our emergency operations. But code blue alone is not enough in a cold this severe, this rare. To remind New Yorkers, this is the coldest weather conditions that we have experienced in this city for 8 years. And that is why we are executing new additional emergency protocol to enhance our efforts.
Hey guys, we got some updates here from Minnesota. We want to go into this live report right now. Let's check this out and hear what she has to say.
A syringe with some kind of liquid in his hand, and he was spraying it at her, and this is what it sounded like. He was promptly detained by people around him and also Omar's bodyguards and was escorted out of the room. This is what it looked like as he was pulled out of that room. Obviously, it left the room shaken up, but Representative Omar says she was doing okay, and she continued to talk because she said, quote, "This is what they want," and she said she didn't want to bow down to fear, and continued her talk. Obviously, tensions are extremely high in this city, and this is just following the heels of 2 fatal shootings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy by federal agents. There was also another shooting here in North Minneapolis a week after that Renee Good shooting where a man was shot by an ICE agent in his leg. It wasn't a fatal shooting, but he was severely injured. And also today, outside of the Whipple Federal Building in Minneapolis, protesters were there. They've been showing up for weeks, and they were chanting anti-ICE slogans as vehicles went in and out of that building. And while everyone in that building is not ICE, agents are operating out of there as well. We spoke to one person who was wearing a high visibility vest that read, "Peaceful observer, do not shoot."
All right, folks, we got some good information there. It sounds to be a syringe that was used to shoot some type of liquid at Representative Ilhan Omar. We had spoken about witnessing something on camera when the town hall was ongoing and a man being whisked up the stairs and taken away. So more to come from this later on. Tonight, we're going to go back to the New York City mayor talking about the storm that they just had in the aftermath of the impact it's having there in New York.
The annual Hope Count has also been postponed during this current emergency. Outreach workers should be focused on bringing New Yorkers inside, not on data collection. Here is the bottom line, New York City. Extreme weather is not a personal failure, but it is a public responsibility. If we have the resources to act, we have the obligation to act. And we are mobilizing every resource at our disposal to ensure that New Yorkers are brought indoors during this potentially lethal weather event. We will also make sure we remain upfront and transparent with our city, just as we have over the past week. Please stay indoors when you are able to, stay inside, and stay warm. Now, for today's announcement. Over the past 27 days, City Hall has sought to govern in a way that mirrors the way the people of the city live their lives, with a hunger to innovate and tackle every problem that lies in our path, and by putting in the work. I am proud of the work that we have done, over these first 3.5 weeks. And today, we are together to announce the next batch of appointments to our city government, 3 New Yorkers who will help us deepen that very work. First, I am delighted to announce that Sharon Goodwin will serve as the Commissioner of the Department of Probation. I can hardly think of anyone more prepared to assume this responsibility or more experienced in the important work that the DOP leads each day. Sharon has dedicated 37 years of service to the DOP. She began as an intern in 1986 and rose to serve as Deputy Commissioner for Adult Operations before retiring in 2024. Along the way, she served as a probation officer, a court liaison officer, a trainer, the Queens County Adult Operations Branch Chief, and an assistant commissioner for both Bronx County Adult Operations and citywide community engagement. She has worked in all 5 boroughs, a badge of honor that few in this city wear. And I want New Yorkers like Sharon, who have a proven record of achievement and a deep passion for service, to stand at the front of this administration. I am grateful to her for returning to public service from retirement, and I'm very much looking forward to working with her to make the DOP a force for justice and lasting change in New Yorkers' lives. Next, I am very excited to announce that Yume Kitase will serve as the Commissioner of the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. DCAS is one of the most quietly influential parts of city government, a department with the remit of ensuring that government works well and that agencies across our city can function at their full potential. As Commissioner, Yume will oversee the work of recruiting and training city employees, the greenest municipal fleet in the nation, 55 public buildings, and lowering our city's carbon emissions. Yume is the perfect person to lead DCAS. Not only is she a City Hall veteran, having previously served as the Chief of Staff to the First Deputy Mayor and the Deputy Mayor for Operations, she has also worked across countless levels of city government. Like many New Yorkers, Yume contains multitudes. She is also an accomplished novelist. And while this brings me no pleasure to announce, Yume has achieved something I never could. She was successfully admitted to Stuyvesant High School. I am also thrilled to name Lisa Garcia as our Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection. In that role, I will turn to Lisa to lead some of the most important work that City Hall does on behalf of New Yorkers, protecting them each day from pollution, leading stormwater management, overseeing our wastewater collection efforts, and managing our city's water supply. Every day, New Yorkers drink more than 1 billion gallons of drinking water, what we rely on to survive, to go about our days, to lead healthy lives. The person responsible for stewarding that supply must be someone with the experience needed to meet the seriousness of this role. Lisa is that leader, with a long record of pursuing environmental justice and protecting public health. Most recently, she was appointed by President Biden to serve as the administrator of EPA's Region 2, which includes New York, where she managed a staff of over 1,000, oversaw $1 billion in funding, and led initiatives that lowered pollution and improved air and water quality. Each of these New Yorkers shares a common commitment to service, a desire to place this city and its needs before their own, and a real ambition to deepen what New Yorkers expect from their government. I am grateful to them for joining our administration and very much look forward to working together with them to delivering a new era for New York. Thank you very much. And now, Commissioner Goodwin.
Thank you, Mayor Mandami. I am deeply honored and humbled to accept this appointment as Commissioner of Probation. Today is more than a professional milestone. It is the continuation of a journey that began many years ago when I first walked through the doors of this department as an intern. Eager to learn and determined to serve, I have had the privilege of working at every level of this agency as an intern, probation officer trainee, PO, probation officer, supervisor, branch chief, and assistant commissioner, and lastly, as deputy commissioner. After 37 years of dedicated public service, I've worked in every borough of this city, and those experiences have shaped my understanding of what this work truly means. As a lifelong New York City resident, born and raised in the Bronx, this role is deeply personal to me. I understand the challenges our communities face, and I carry...
All right, guys, we're going to take another 2-minute break. Come off of this because we want to get to the chairwoman of the NTSB about that midair collision. Of course, we're going to have more tonight for you on that on WCNC Charlotte. But first, let's hit a break. We'll see you in 2. And we're back. We're going to go to Chairwoman Jennifer Homendy from the NTSB, who spoke on the mid-air collision that happened last year, January of 2025.
In Washington National Airport. This has been a 12-month endeavor through some pretty difficult times, including the longest government shutdown in history, but our team is expert staff, and it really has been an all-hands-on-deck effort. There has been a lot of testing of equipment and simulations that we've gone through over months, and now we're pleased that we're at the point where we can release our findings, our probable cause, and our safety recommendations, which we'll get into this afternoon. I will tell you, though not public yet, the draft report is well over 500 pages. I can't remember the last NTSB report that was that extensive, but also in addition to that, our evidence is quite extensive, exceeding 19,000 pages in our public docket. So with that, we still have an afternoon where we're going to get into some additional issues and then get into the findings, probable cause, and safety recommendations. But I'll take a few questions. Chris, you were the first to raise your hand. I will ask if you can state your name and your affiliation. If you could keep it to one question, largely because I need another coffee, but also, if we need to do more than one round, that's okay. Go ahead.
Chris Van Cleve from CBS News. There's very clear frustration from the board, it sounds like, when it comes to the FAA's role in all of this. Should the FAA have known there was a problem? Should something have been done?
The question is, should the FAA have known there was a problem, and should something have been done? Absolutely. The data was there. The data was in their own systems. It was the NTSB working with them to determine that there were 15,214 close proximity events, 85 of which were serious, over a number of years. That's just the data. Why collect data if you're not going to analyze it? Then they were supposed to conduct annual reviews of helicopter routes to consider, are they still safe? Is there utility to keeping them? Should they change? We couldn't find any evidence of annual reviews, nor could FAA tell us who did them. That is astounding to me. It's one, I believe, failure after another. But we can talk about the pilots, we can talk about air traffic controllers, we can talk about traffic. What we need to really talk about is a tower and tower personnel who were repeatedly saying, we have a safety problem here. We have a hot spot at the end of runway 33 and we need to do something about it. We have helicopter routes where we have unsafe practices right now. We need to do something. How many times do tower personnel, who, by the way, put their own helicopter working group together and kept submitting one recommendation after another? We need help, we need help, we need help. Apparently falling on deaf ears. So I will also get she sounds angry. We should be angry because for years no one listened. This was preventable. This was 100% preventable. Frankly, having a helicopter route crossing runway 33 with only 75 feet that means 75 feet of vertical separation. What that means is 75 feet at best separating a helicopter and civilian aircraft. Nowhere in the airspace is that okay. Nowhere. This shouldn't have existed. Tom, you were the second person.
Madam Chair, Tom Costello with NBC News. Are you concerned that there may be other hotspots right now that the FAA is not paying attention to?
Question is, are there other hotspots? And am I concerned that the FAA is not paying attention to those other hotspots? The answer to that is yes. The FAA did a evaluation of the national airspace, I believe, as a result of Senator Cruz and Senator Cantwell asking for that evaluation. I'm not sure that I'm not comfortable with it. I keep hearing about other areas in the airspace where they're concerned. Burbank is one where commercial airlines have called me to say the next midair is going to be at Burbank. And nobody at FAA is paying attention to us. So whether it is involving helicopters or not, people are raising red flags. And why aren't people listening? The FAA has to ensure safety. That is their job. Yes.
Will Guys, the Air Current. So I know we have yet to see the text of the recommendations that will come later this afternoon. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you plan to sort of address some of the cultural issues that the board has displayed here. I know we talked about like specific things with respect to equipage or whatnot, but how do you address some of these big cultural issues that prevented, say, controllers' recommendations from being elevated or from Army pilots really understanding some of the risks of the airspace they're applying?
The question is, how do you change culture, essentially? And are you just referring to FAA or also Army?
Everyone.
I mean, culture is the hardest to change in any organization. I can tell you this much. I knew there was a safety culture problem when we had a hearing on the door plug. We had a hearing and I asked a question, do you have a good safety culture? I asked Boeing, they said, we could do better. I asked Spirit, we could do better. I asked FAA, they said, our safety culture is great. My response was the individual organization that says they have a great safety culture is the problem. Because I'm the NTSB chair. We are the safety organization. But safety culture, having a good safety culture is not a destiny. It is a continual journey. It is a continual improvement process. So if you look at my own agency, frankly, I always think there's room for improvement. Always. But changing culture is so hard. So I have to say I want to work with FAA. I want to work with the leadership at FAA. I know the board wants to work with the leadership at FAA in partnership to figure out what we can do to help improve safety culture. We have heard from so many individuals who won't even put their name on anything, don't want to be interviewed formally because they are afraid of retaliation. That's terrible, because what happens then, people won't speak up when there's a safety issue. I know that this is on Administrator Bedford's, top of his mind, and the Secretary, we've talked about it. But we've got to figure out a way to improve safety culture.
So is the FAA falling down on safety?
That is two questions in one. I will come back to that after I call on these two, Pete and then Josh. I knew it was Josh. I just needed to make sure. Yeah, I just was making. Yeah. Okay, Pete.
Chair, I'm on team with CNN. There was a lot of talk today about ADS-B. Would ADS-B have played a factor in preventing this crash, and can it prevent future crashes like this?
Absolutely, ADS-B would have helped prevent this crash. We did simulations in Flight 5342. The crew in this accident from TCAS got a traffic alert at 19 seconds before collision. You know what a pilot is doing when you get a traffic alert? You're looking around going, well, where is it? Not visible in this situation. They would have, with ADS-B in, gotten an alert at 59 seconds before the collision. and been able to take measures to avert it. For the helicopter crew, 48 seconds. They didn't even know. It is clear from the CVR they didn't even know it was on the left.
Should more airlines equip with ADS-B?
Should more airlines equip with ADS-B? Absolutely, all of them. And we're not just talking airlines. ADS-B in, there's already ADS-B out. ADS-B in, which is receiving information about aircraft that's in the airspace, should be on Part 121 commercial airlines. You got passengers, you want to see what's there. It should be on Part 135 operations, and it should be on 91 general aviation. It should be throughout the airspace as required. Everywhere there's ADS-B out, there should be ADS-B in.
So what's your message to special interests who push back against this? Sorry.
Wow, that's 3, and I really did. Okay.
But really, I think it's an important question because, like, it seems that there are a lot of people who don't want this for one reason or another.
Then I'd say the question is, there are a lot of people who don't want this for one reason or another. I'd say, are you for safety? You want lives lost? Then don't do it. But if you want lives saved, implement it. We've been after this for years, since 1968, frankly, and going back, I've got Josh, then I'll go back to your second question.
And then
Josh.
we'll do one more.
Oh, no, we can't. I wasn't real good at, just give me a peanut butter sandwich.
Josh Reiniger, MSN. The Route 4 is over. The conflict with helicopters and commercial air traffic at DCA is hopefully past but your investigation has revealed tremendous issues with DCA as it is. The structure of the airport has been in place since the 40s. It's drastically outmoded. It's chaos to this day. Does this give you any second thought at your home airport about the safety at DCA and what is it going to take to make it safe?
Well, I certainly think about how can we make it safer. That's why we're here. It is my home airport, and it's where I fly out of and choose to fly out of, my whole family. Aviation is safe in general. But these are complex systems where there are safety gaps, and when you have certain conditions, certain systemic vulnerabilities that allow for error, you have to address those conditions. I will, though, take a little bit of issue on, well, this isn't an issue at DCA. If you look at the national airspace evaluation that FAA did at all the other places for helicopter routes, they did not evaluate the other helicopter routes at DCA. They only looked at 4, and we're going to have something to say about that coming up.
Have you looked at other routes around it?
That is not for us to do. FAA needs to do that. Geez, I don't even know. Well, you had your hand up before. Then I'll go to Dave, and then we'll go over here.
Chairwoman, appreciate your time. Ben Dennis with DC News Now. Do you have any evidence that one person or several people were purposefully negligent leading up to this crash? And if not, and if it was a period of systemic issues, how can the FAA actually be held responsible?
On negligence, I mean, if we felt there was any sort of negligence, there would be probably some criminal component to that, and we'd have to refer that to the authorities. So we don't have any evidence of just plain out negligence. With accountability, I mean, that's why we issue recommendations, and we're going to push hard to pursue implementation of those recommendations. It isn't that we ensure a safe airspace until our recommendations are implemented. Right now we have 300 recommendations that have not been implemented on aviation safety, which were issued after people died. And those need to be implemented to save lives. Dave?
Real quick, you mentioned in one of the presentations that the FAA rejected a recommendation to move or get rid of Route 4 after this 2013 near miss. You also referenced the failure to do the alcohol testing after these incidents, and a litany of other issues. And you dealt with the FAA a number of times. You referenced Colin Trottenberg and Mike Whitaker's letters saying we're not going to do the ADSB recommendations. What do you think the cultural problem is with the FAA? Is it just the agency thinks it knows better, or doesn't? For all the time you spent on the FAA, what's the problem?
The question is, what is the cultural problem at the FAA? What is the problem with them taking these recommendations seriously? I can't answer that. I wish I could. I don't know. But they definitely need some serious reform. Yes.
I'm Clement Cherry with Clinical Transportation Team. I wanted to ask about the Rover Act, which relates to ADSB technologies. It passed by unanimous consent out of the Senate last month, but it hasn't been forwarded in the House at all.
All right, folks, that is our show here on WCNC Plus. Don't forget, we'll have more for you tonight on WCNC Charlotte, and then again at 9 o'clock, expecting to see the full interview from the victim's family from the Midair DC collision. That'll be on Thursday night at 9 after our stream. We'll see you then.